Institute of Katalyst presents 23rd Katalyst Monthly Seminar, scheduled for the 28th of November 2025 at 8 p.m. and it will be held on Zoom. This month, we are honored to host a distinguished guest. She comes from one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Our guest for this month is Professor Karen Ottewell from the United Kingdom. She is a faculty member at the prestigious University of Cambridge, holding the following positions: Acting Director of the Language Centre, Professor of Contrasted Rhetoric and Written Articulacy, Director of Academic Development and Training for International Students, ADTIS, Fellow and Tutor of Lucy Cavendish College, Senior Esquire Vidal, Executive Member of University Council for Languages, EAP. This month our guest speaker Professor Karen Ottewell will talking about bridging cultures in education, lessons from teaching international students at Cambridge.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much indeed for the invitation. It's lovely to be invited to speak to you about some of the things that happen here at the university. So that wonderful little video at the start gives you an overview of my role here at the university. But I thought before I say a little bit about the Language Centre, and then in particular the question or the topic that I was set for this evening and to speak to you about, so bridging cultures, lessons from working with international students from around the world here at the university. I thought I'd start with a little introduction to the university and how international it is, and then something about the language centres, so where I work in the university, and then specifically addressing that question of bridging cultures and what the advantages are of working in an institution that is so international. So as I said then, I work at the University of Cambridge, where we are privileged to have students and staff members from all over the world. It is truly a privilege to have so many people from so many different countries of the world, speaking so many different languages, studying so many different disciplines. We have around about 10,000 students at undergraduate level and 10,000 students at graduate level, so those doing postgraduate degrees. And in the undergraduate level, so those doing their first degree here at the university, we have around about 20% of those are from countries other than the United Kingdom. At postgraduate level, though, that number is a lot higher. It's around about 70% of the postgraduates at the university come from countries other than the United Kingdom. This also applies, however, when we look at the academic staff at the university. The university has around 10,000 staff in total. That includes academics, but also kind of assistant staff members and others. And of the staff at the university, we also have around 50% that come from all over the world. So it is hugely international, which is an amazing place to be. And each year, and if you're interested, you can have a look on the university website. We publish the numbers each year as to where the students come from, which parts of the world they come from and what they're studying. I think at the last publication of this, which would have been in November last year, we had 140 countries represented at the university, which is an amazing number. Admittedly, some countries have quite a few students represented here. I think the top country, which has been for numerous years, is China, but that's also, of course, because China is really quite a populous country in itself as well. Then it usually, I'd have to check the figures, but it usually goes down then to the United States and to Germany and to India, and then to other countries. And some countries, we may only have one student from that country. I can remember when I was looking a few years back, we had one student from Bhutan, one from Laos, but 140 countries. So it is an absolute phenomenal privilege, because you're always meeting people from different parts of the world with very different backgrounds, very different perspectives on life, very different educational kind of experiences, very different cultural experiences and views on things, all coming to one university. And so whilst it's a very international place, of course this is also a privilege for all of the home students, so all of those students at the university from the United Kingdom here, because they get to meet people from all over the world. So it's an amazing place in that sense. So that's a little bit of kind of the international nature of the university. Specifically then looking at the language centres, so that's the department in the university which I am the acting director of and then work within. So we have two main teaching sections in the centre. So we have what's called the Cambridge University Language Programmes, which we reduced to CULP as a short form, and that's where we teach languages other than English. So for those who want to either keep up in a foreign language, take on a new language, they may need it for research purposes, or just interest in learning other languages. We teach 18 different languages at the moment, and all of them from ab initio level, so from no awareness at all or no ability at all in the language, right up to advanced plus. Depends on the language as to the number of levels we have in there. And we have general courses, so those who just want to get a general awareness of the language. We have kind of academic courses for students who are wanting to, say, use the language in their research. So they might having to be reading, say, German texts or Chinese texts or French texts as part of their research. So they're gaining particular skill set in that language. We do courses also for specific disciplines. So many of our courses are specifically aimed at medics. So those students studying medicine at the university who may be wanting to work overseas, and therefore kind of gaining awareness in different languages as well. But they're not only kind of then linguistic in focus, they take a very communicative approach. So the focus is really on being able to communicate in that language. Of course, there's elements of grammar and accuracy and all of those embedded too, but it's really being able to communicate through the medium of that language, whichever language it is. But we also have courses specifically focusing at different aspects of culture as well. So for example, we might have French through film, for example, or Chinese through poetry. So students can also then get a very good kind of cultural awareness of that particular language as well. So that's one of the main strands of the centre in terms of foreign languages. In addition, we have resources in the Language Centre, so static resources and online, so books and CDs and also online materials for another 200 languages. Because many students at the university may be going to many different parts of the world and want a communicative ability in a language. They can make an advising appointment with us, and we can take them through the resources that we have a look at how much time they've got, what is it they're going to be using language for, all of those different things. And part of that, we also retain a database within the university because, of course, as I said, the university is very international. We have students from all over and therefore speaking many different languages. We keep a database to have kind of a conversation exchange, to put people in contact with each other who are learning each other's languages. So, for example, I offer Polish and I really want to learn Korean, for example, and we'll make sure that those two people get in touch and they can support each other learning those languages. The section then that I'm responsible for in the centre, that you kind of then, it was noted in the introductory video, is what's called ADTIS, and it's an acronym. It stands for Academic Development and Training for International Students, and that's what myself and my team in the centre focus on. And really what we're looking at doing is supporting students for whom English is an additional language, who come to study at the university. And as you'll probably gather from the percentage of students that we have here at Cambridge, we tend to be working almost exclusively with postgraduate students. So those coming on to do master's courses or PhDs with us, doctorates. And we run a range of courses for them. We have what's called a pre-sessional, so that's an intensive 6-week program that takes place in the summer. So that takes place August, September time. And the focus of that really is that we can give them a very good introduction to the university, so they can get to know the lay of the land, as it were, and get to know the university very well, get to know the city. But also during that time, the main focus is really helping them to strengthen and develop their discipline-specific communicative skills in whatever area they may be coming to study at the university. So anything from astronomy, history, land economy, education, whatever discipline they're coming to study, we're looking then to strengthen their communicative skill set, in particular in writing, simply because writing is the hardest of the 4 skills in any language, even one's first language. It's the hardest skill to gain. So particularly helping them to strengthen their written ability. And during that program, they also research and write a 4,000 word research paper in their particular field, and then do presentations on it. They attend lectures. There's a wonderful social program so that they can get to know the city. This is run by a current student at the university, so they can get a really nice student insight into it as well. And that course usually has around 60 students on it, and again from all over the world. We'll generally have 20 to 25 different nationalities on that course, so students then from the Far East, from the Middle East, from Europe, and also from Latin America. So that's a wonderful kind of then concentrated period, because they're only working with us during that period. It's before they start their official programs at the university, and it's also an opportunity for them to get to know people from all around the world as well, and also kind of profit from those different insights, those different perspectives that can give. We also run a course during the year, so an in-sessional program, and we do bespoke work, so tailored provision for departments and colleges at the university as well. So that's kind of a bit of a snapshot of where we're going. With respect to kind of then bridging cultures and the experience of working with students here at the university, one thing to note really in our foreign language programs, so in the CULT programs, the majority of the students that are on the courses are international themselves. So they're already highly kind of then able in at least 2 languages, because they'll have their first language, whatever that may be, and of course English. They will have kind of met English requirements to come into the university. So they're already very, very good in 2 languages, and they're looking to learn a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th language. The most popular language at the Language Centre for students either continuing it or picking it up from scratch is French. French is the main course. Chinese is up there as well, and German for different disciplines, but French is one of the main courses that students come into. And so we'll have students who are already bilingual at least, or maybe trilingual, coming in to learn different languages. And of course they're all working with students for whom English is an additional language in the course as well. And then we sometimes, depending on the cohort, usually it's a very international cohort, but sometimes if we have one particular linguistic group that's there, so for example, there was a couple of years ago we had a French course that was consisted of only first language Chinese speakers. So all of the students spoke Chinese as a first language. And so what we were then looking at is how we can modify, develop, strengthen, refocus our teaching to really focus on the challenges that Chinese first language speakers have, maybe kind of picking up French. One of the areas that we really looked at in that one is working on French pronunciation for Chinese speakers, because there were certain sounds that don't go across, and so we worked with our Chinese teachers and our French teachers to work together to bridge that kind of then that linguistic gap that was happening there as well. One of the other things we're doing at the moment, our teaching members of staff at the Language Centre come from all over the world as well. So we're currently developing a range of podcasts to really highlight the different kind of cultural backgrounds, linguistic insights, and the richness of different linguistic cultures and cultural backgrounds. So, for example, of our Spanish teachers at the Language Centre, they all come from different parts of the Spanish-speaking world. So we do have one from Spain, but we also have members from Latin America, because of course Spanish is a huge language there as well. So looking at podcasts and materials on how Spanish is used in different parts of the Spanish-speaking world, so as to kind of show the richness of languages and the cultural background as well. And this is something we're also looking at developing in French as well, looking at different kind of dialect forms, different regional aspects of those languages as well. Within my own kind of area, to kind of conclude, the main thing that I work with is, and I say, myself and my team work predominantly with postgraduate students, so those coming to do masters or PhDs and doctorates. And as I say, that's 70% of our students at postgraduate level at the university are international. And as I say, we have quite high English language requirements to come into the university. And so all the students coming in already speak English very well, and they have very good linguistic proficiency in the language. The one thing where there may be kind of then, I wouldn't say difficulties, but maybe some challenges, is what I've come to term rhetorical transfer. And so the main, I wouldn't say difficulties, but initial challenges that students may face when coming is not so much a linguistic aspect, so it isn't a language aspect as such. It's really kind of how their discipline argues, constructs argument, different disciplines, constructs knowledge and argument in different ways. For example, a historian isn't going to construct argument and knowledge and do research in the same way as a physicist. And that's understandable. They're different disciplines, they look at things in different ways. What's also true is different languages do that. And as I say languages, I mean that in the broadest possible sense, because you can use language in different ways to communicate in different ways. But of course, a language also has a cultural background, it has a historical background, it has an educational background, all of these different things. And one of the things that we tend to see students may have initial challenges with is they're writing very well in English, so it is the language is English, and it's clear from that perspective, but they may be using then the argumentational approach of their first language, and you see that transfer effect coming into English. So it reads like English, but it may not be constructed in the expectation that that particular language has, and in that particular discipline as well. And also at postgraduate level, we have to raise awareness for students for whom English is a first language, because nobody's kind of born with the ability to write academically, whatever your first language is. It's something you have to develop, something you have to train. And so we also work on kind of raising awareness of kind of rhetorical difference and what we expect. And looking at different rhetorical paradigms, different templates, and how you communicate. With the intention, whilst I know that the university is located in the UK, the intention is to develop the skill set in international English. We're not looking at a particular variety of the language. As you probably know, English there isn't one dominant form, there's no one standard form of the language. They're all different dialects. There may be particularly dominant forms, for example, American English, British English, Australian English, Singaporean English, many different varieties. But what we're looking at is really strengthening their skill set in international English, and this is also for first language speakers, so that they can communicate in such a way that they are readily understandable to anybody around the world, irrespective of their first language background. So they're clear, it's unambiguous, people can understand. And of course, context in there is hugely important. It's not always necessary to communicate at that level. It depends on the context. For example, if you're at a conference in China and everybody speaks English and Chinese, you can afford to mix the different paradigms in a different way, the different approaches. But if you're not, and if you're in a very international environment where English may be then a second or additional language for many people, we're kind of operating at a level where we're really focusing on clarity and lack of ambiguity so everybody can readily understand. And essentially that's a lot of what we do, is kind of really raising awareness of how to achieve that, what's involved in achieving that. And the beauty is, as I say, we have students from all over the world. I mean, it is an absolute privilege. We come from all over with all different perspectives, different approaches. And it is, of course, all through the medium of English, which is also a wonderful opportunity that everybody can share their views on different things. And so all the students, of course, learn from each other as well as to the different cultural differences, maybe the different linguistic differences, different educational backgrounds, all of these different things. And we're looking at kind of enabling them to really communicate their research at an international level to as wide a possible audience. And that's a wonderful privilege. We get to, as I say, I get enriched from meeting all of these people from all over the world and really just seeing how we can better support them so they can go on to be successful in what they've come here at the university to do, and to achieve their aims afterwards. So it isn't simply that we're helping to bridge those kind of bridges with international students, they're bridging them amongst themselves and really becoming a lot more interculturally and multiculturally aware, and indeed multilingual whilst they're with us as well, which is an amazing thing. So there's a bit of an insight into the things we do here. I'm open to any questions or queries or comments you may have on any of that.
Professor, thank you indeed. I do thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you once again for accepting our invitation to be our guest of honor in this.
You're most welcome. It's a privilege to be invited.
Thank you indeed. Thank you very much. Before we move to the students, I have a question for you, Professor, because you've impressed me by the huge number you've mentioned. Professors, researchers, students and staff at Cambridge University. So what is the key behind attracting this huge number of people to be like part of this huge university?
Oh goodness. One of the questions, when part of the role that I do as well, which I didn't mention, is part of admissions to the university. So I also do English language assessments for entry to the university, which is a wonderful privilege because I get to then chat to people online through Zoom, and whilst ostensibly we're looking at kind of English language ability and just looking how they can communicate in speech, ultimately it's a wonderful opportunity to have a chat with them about why do they want to come to the UK and specifically Cambridge. And what increasingly, or the common answer I get, is that people have known about the university. I mean, it's an old institution. It's been around for a few hundred years. It was founded in 1209, so 1209, so it's over 800 years old. And if you might not have heard of the university, you might be aware of other parts of the university. So Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So it's got the oldest publishing house in the UK. Cambridge University Press is the oldest, that dates from the 15th century. And if you've been taking any exams that might have been arranged by either Oxford and Cambridge or Cambridge itself, Cambridge Assessment, so any of the English tests or other courses or A-levels, people may have heard of it from there. And then I think because the place is it's a wonderful mixture of old and new. So we've got buildings that are from the 12th century, but we've also got really cutting edge laboratories and other things that have happened here. So the latest one is Cavendish 3, which is the third physics department that's just been built and has just been opened. And so I think of over those 800 years, lots of things have happened at the institution. I have to say it does look very nice. I'm not saying that's a reason to come here, but we've got the old, and of course since kind of Harry Potter became famous, I often get the comment that it's kind of very Harry Potter-esque. And of course it is, like Oxford, it looks a little bit like that. But I think it's also because of the the range of courses that we do, the level of research that students can do here, and of course that the academics and the researchers that we have here that many students want to come and work with, pursue their own research and develop. I mean, it is really a privilege to have so many people who want to come here, and we can't take that for granted. Just because it's old doesn't mean necessarily people want to come. Students have to feel that they're getting something beneficial from being here, and it's useful for them in what they want to achieve in life as well. So I think it's a mixture of loads of different things. I don't think there's one particular thing that it will be. I mean, it's been around for a long time, so it's got a bit of a heritage. These days it does look like Harry Potter. It looks a little bit like Hogwarts. But I think it's the quality of the students, the quality of the courses, the research that's possible, and essentially the number of spin-off companies and contributions that the university makes that people just want to be a part of. And I have to say, with all the students who come here, and certainly when I see them in the summer in our programs, I always say that Cambridge is only ever as good as the people in it, and the students are part of that.
Indeed.
Everybody who's a member of the university makes it what it is.
Indeed.
And in some years it might be better than others.
Indeed.
But it's the people that are in it that make it work.
Thank you indeed, Professor. Thank you very much for the answer.
We enhance the interaction between mind and knowledge.